Jiddu Krishnamurti. Have you ever deeply explored the question of psychological dependence? When we are in a state of confusion, we want someone to pull us out of it. We are constantly concerned with how to escape or avoid the state we are in. In the process of avoiding this state, we become prone to creating some kind of dependence, which then becomes our authority. If we depend on another person for our security, for our inner well-being, countless problems arise from this dependence. And then we try to solve them, but we never question or deeply examine the problem of dependence itself. Perhaps if we could intelligently and with full awareness penetrate this issue, we might discover that dependence is not the actual problem. It is merely a way to escape from a deeper fact. So why do we have dependencies? Psychologically, inwardly, we depend on a system, a philosophy. We turn to others for guidance, seeking a way, a code of conduct. We look for teachers to provide us with a way of life that offers hope, happiness, or fulfillment. In this way, we are always seeking some form of dependence, some kind of security. But a dependent mind can never be free. So, is it possible for the mind to free itself from this sense of dependence? We know we are dependent on our relationships with people, on certain ideas, or on a system of thought. But why? We must delve deeply into this question. Why do we have dependencies? Can you observe your own dependencies? Right now, do you depend on someone? Do you depend on a belief? Do you rely on something to fill this moment? This dependence inevitably creates illusion. In reality, I don't believe dependence is the central issue. I think there is a deeper factor that drives us to be dependent. So, what is this deeper issue? It is the fact that the mind dreads and fears the idea of being alone. Most of us have hollow, empty minds. We are terribly lonely, and we do not know what love truly means. Thus, out of this loneliness, this insufficiency, this deprivation of life, we attach ourselves to something, we become dependent on something. We want to identify with one thing or another to avoid our desperate loneliness. So, we cling to an idea, a belief, or a person, most often to a person. But does the mind truly know the state it is trying to avoid? Do you know what loneliness is? Until this loneliness is fully understood, felt, penetrated, and dissolved, as long as this sense of loneliness remains, dependence will be inevitable, and the individual will never be free. They will never be able to discover for themselves what is true. All of our problems arise from dependence. Where there is psychological dependence, there is fear. Fear is the recognition of our emptiness, of our inner loneliness and poverty, and the realization that we cannot do anything about it. What interests us here is this fear that generates dependence. If we understand fear, we will also understand dependence. Therefore, to understand fear, sensitivity is essential to discover and perceive how it arises. If an individual is sufficiently sensitive, they will become aware of their dreadful emptiness. This bottomless abyss that cannot be filled with vulgar entertainments like drugs, church rituals, or social diversions. Nothing will fill it. When one understands this, fear grows. This fear drives us to dependence, and this dependence makes us increasingly insensitive. In seeing this as it truly is, we feel even more fear. The question now is, can we go beyond this emptiness, this loneliness, instead of learning to depend on ourselves or permanently disguising our emptiness? The first thing we must do is observe attentively. Observe all the murmurs, fears, illusions, and despairs of our own being. We must face ourselves as we are, not as we think we should be according to some standard or ideal. We must see what we truly are, and from there begin a radical transformation, to have no resistance, no inner barriers, to be entirely and truly free of every impulse, compulsion, or minor demand. This is to walk through life with open arms. The question is, can the mind be absolutely free of all concepts? The matrix is complex, but each of us holds a part of the solution. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and together we'll see beyond appearances.